Welcome back to another episode of I Wish They Knew, a show where we share big ideas that deserve more attention in about the time it takes to enjoy a cup of coffee. I'm Joe Hirsch. Today's wish comes from Heather Younger. Heather is a two-time TEDx and keynote speaker and the founder and CEO of Employee Fanatics, a leading employee engagement and consulting firm. Here's a fun fact. Heather has read more than 30,000 employee engagement surveys, which I am pretty sure is a record here on this show, and her work has appeared in major media outlets like NBC, ABC, Bloomberg, and Forbes, among others. And she's the author of 4 great books. Her latest is The Art of Self-Leadership. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is great to have you here. So what do you wish more people knew?
I think I wish they knew that they no longer have to wait. They don't need to wait for someone else to lead them. They can lead themselves first.
So for many people, there's a huge divide between the way that they think they lead and the way they actually show up to lead. Talk about some ways that people can deepen that self-awareness, because it probably starts there, right? With self-awareness and becoming more in tune with their leadership habits.
I believe that self-awareness and social awareness are tied together in a big way. And what I mean by that is, if I pay attention to the world around me and the world's response to me by kind of slowing down enough, like breathing through interactions, having a presence about me, I can tell whether or not I am being effective as a leader, because I'm paying attention to the environment and how it's responding to me. I do think there's a bit of work to be done internally, so that self-awareness, the internal work that has to get done to shine outwardly, which is what self-leadership really is about, is the internal work we do inside. So one of the things I think is really good on self-awareness is letting a friend, like finding an accountability partner and letting a friend know what you're working on, and having someone, for example, a friend or colleague that can watch you in meetings and say, well, I'm wanting to do to keep my head about me when I get in a situation where normally I would get angry, or you would see things on my face, or you would see my body language change when there'd be some discussion at the table. I'm trying to work on emotional self-management, keeping myself in check. So I want you to pay attention, and then I'm giving you permission to kind of after the fact say, oh, you did a great job, or and like, this is what I saw, to help me be more aware of what's happening like in me and how it's showing externally. So I think the accountability part is really good. And sometimes it's hard to find those people. There's usually like maybe 1 or 2 at work you might trust to do that. But I think that's a really big one. A lot of exercises we talk about with self-awareness are kind of doing a body scanning. So again, in this situation where, for example, we're at a table, we're at a group table and we're having a discussion about something, and I can start to feel like things bubble up, anger, whatever it could be something, anxiety is starting to bubble up inside. I'm scanning myself, and then I'm just kind of marking that in my head, so that I might even make like a quick jot note down on a piece of paper if I have paper, or in my phone real fast, so that I can come back to it to be like, what was it that, like, or what is it that every single time I'm in this situation, it bubbles up to here, and I want to just scream, and then I can't think objectively, which means I'm not really leading myself well, because I'm like making all this decision on emotion. So these are all just like very intentional, very process kind of focused things to do to help us grow in self-awareness.
Yeah, some of which come from within and some from outside.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we can't really lead others unless and until we're ready to lead ourselves, and how aware we are of that. I guess the more we become aware of that leadership style, the more we can become aware of our own limitations and some of our blind spots. That can be daunting for folks, and maybe even derails people from becoming the kind of leaders they should be and can be. How do you think leaders can make it safe for themselves to be vulnerable without losing their standing?
You know, this is something that comes up for me all the time, because my main platform is to carrying leadership. And carrying leadership in most people's minds could sound soft. And what I always try to tell people is that that this like soft and gentle, kind, leader does not have to stand in stark opposition to the leader who holds people accountable, who sets clear expectations, who expects to achieve results. You can do both. It's not simple, but a level of intentionality is required. And it says this, that like when you're with the group, there's a meeting of the minds that takes place. There's, again, like the setting of a common expectation, maybe values and norms that takes place in a group. So if you do it in a group, what I mean by that is if you do it with your team and it's done in more of an inclusive way, now when somebody comes off the mark from the thing that was previously agreed inside the group, it's easier to say, oh my gosh, you are usually extremely good at doing XYZ. I noticed this today. I'm curious, what was going on with you? What's happening? And it allows you to get curious. Curiosity is the key. It allows you to go deeper and help them then get back on track. And you can do all of that with that sense of care, but they know that in the end, like, results have to happen. The end game is still like the path that we're all going towards. And now we've just reached a hiccup. And because I do care about you, I'm going to kind of sit with you and find out where it's coming from. And if it's something that can be changed, fixed, improved, if it's something that you want to change, fix, or improve, and then if you do, like, then I'm in it with you to try to help you get back on track. So I think we have the ability to both be in a position of strength. That's really what we're talking about here, and a position of compassion. And what most people think is that we give up our strength when we show up with a compassion. It's the exact opposite. When someone knows that you care about them at a foundational level, and they know that you're willing to lift them up, to help them course correct, to watch out for them and their strengths, how much more are they going to go over and above for you to achieve the goals? And I always tell people to do is, like, think back on the people who did this for you. What would you be prepared to do for them today because they did that for you? It's a very simple thing. It's very qualitative. But if you would look back and go, what would I do? Like, if he called on me today, what would I do for that gentleman? What would I do for that woman? And what have I done? And you can see, like, you take actions for people who show up at that level of compassion for you. So you can have both strength and compassion at the same time.
So leadership is revealed under adverse conditions. And that's very challenging for lots of reasons, but specifically for the leader who wants to become great at self-leadership. What are some of the principles that they could put into place to navigate those challenging situations so that they can build resilience, not only in their teams, but also in themselves?
Yeah. There are a couple different ones that I've talked about for a while. I do have a TED talk on this too, so it goes deeper. For those who would want to go deeper, just look up Heather Younger, you can find that. But I would say there are two strategies I focus on. One is reframing, and that is taking a situation where you have maybe some thoughts that are rational, that are going through your minds and it's like making you feel stuck. And what a reframe says is the circumstances are here, but I'm going to choose to see the circumstances in a different way. And so now I'm going to what I call flipping the switch in my head that says I don't need to stay in the muck or in the negativity or the irrational. I want to switch over to the rational. I want to see, okay, so let me see this in a different way. So, okay, yeah, I just went through a layoff and boy, that was a lot. And I'm afraid I have a lot of fear going on around that. But then let me think about what did I learn from the situation when I worked there? What skills did I grow in? What friends did I have? So I start curiosity. I start asking myself these questions that helps me see there were a lot of good things that took place in the role through that. And by the way, even after or like in the process of going through layoff, there's that sense of your pain and all that, but there's also, again, knowledge, awareness, things that pop from that. And so you can start to see how you can turn that irrational to rational. The reframing is turning the irrational to rational intentionally, not accidentally. And then the other tool I talk about is focusing on a mission that's bigger than yourself. If you have this big, huge mission, it helps you to keep focused on that thing. And no matter what comes your way, it helps to keep you on track. So I would say those are the two biggest strategies that I've used, and I've seen other people use that to kind of move past tough times.
Yeah. So you can't control what's happened, but you can control what happens next. And you can always see the bigger picture. And in that bigger picture, make room for more learning.
Love the way you said it. Love it. Love it.
So I think we've hit this a few times in the conversation so far, but self-leadership, as much as it is about us, it really is about others, because we can't get better all by ourselves. And that's definitely true when it comes to leadership development. Can you talk about some ways that leaders can get the feedback that they need from others, from their teams, in order to continue to grow. It's a lot easier to dish it out. It's a lot harder to take it.
Oh my gosh, this showed up in real life recently with my son. He's 17. He is the commander of his squadron for Civil Air Patrol. And he there was a gentleman he was talking to, so somebody who reports to him, because he's the cadet commander, so everybody reports to him up through the squadron. And so he was talking to the gentleman, and he said, okay, blah, 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 here's what we're going to do. And then after he did it, he said, okay, tell me now, what did I do and how could I improve that? And he said it in such a matter-of-fact, very welcoming, very open, very non-threatening way that the person said, oh, here are 3 things I think you could improve on. And immediately, this is what here's the key here. Immediately he went to work trying to get those done. And then in the next meeting, like after that next meeting, again, someone who supported to him, he went to that person. He said, okay, did you see any difference? Did you see any changes? And the person said, yeah, you did this better and this better. You could potentially still work on this. And so he, as the person who's above everybody, still going to the people who are supporting him, looking to him for guidance, and he's looking to them for guidance. I think that most leaders, what with the problem with people with authority and manager titles, is that we pretend like we know it all. We pretend like those who look to us only look to us, but that we can't look to them. And that, I think, is the biggest difference as far as getting feedback. The other thing is just inviting it and being the last person to speak at a meeting and making sure you hear other people's voices before yours, because oftentimes they'll change your mind, at least for me. Me personally, with my team, I want them to tell me why it's not going to work. I want them to shoot down my ideas. And my thing is, if there's 3 of us at a table, there's 4 of us at a table, and 2 of the 4 of us are coming against what I just said, well, I'm probably wrong. And I'm probably going to shift course. And that's just the way it is, because I put really smart people around me. And so it makes it easy for me to say, okay, I know that I'm not right in this situation.
So a certain amount of confidence that you want to hear from others and know that you can learn from others, and the humility to know that you don't have all the answers.
Yes, and I love that the idea you said just before this one, which was that lifelong learning idea, is so key. Like I am prepared to learn in any situation. People may say, oh, well, she's up here. And I'm like, I'm going to go in that group of people who may not be like up here from whatever position they're thinking of. And I'm going to learn something. Like I will never leave an environment if I have not learned, right? So that's the key, is having that mindset.
The book is The Art of Self-Leadership, and the author, and she seems pretty self-aware herself, is Heather Younger. Heather, thanks for sharing your wish with us today.
Thank you.